Okon was a roadside mechanic in Calabar, known for his grease-stained hands, gentle eyes, and the limp in his right leg. Life hadn't been kind to him since the death of his wife during childbirth. He raised his only daughter, Imabong, alone. She was born with a spinal condition that left her unable to walk. Yet her smile could light up the darkest alley. Every morning, before the sun fully rose, Okon strapped Imabong onto his back with a worn wrapper and trekked 2 miles to her school. Rain or shine, he walked. Children stared, some jeered, but Okon never wavered. "My daughter will go to school," he would say, "even if I have to crawl there." Behind those words was a secret promise made to his wife on her deathbed. The first day, Okon took Imabong to school. Her tiny arms clung around his neck. The other children watched in confused silence as their parents drove in fancy cars and dropped them off with a kiss. Okon, sweating and limping, placed Imabong gently at the school's entrance. The teachers hesitated. They had no special facilities for disabled children. But when Imabong opened her mouth to speak, her intelligence stunned everyone. She recited an entire poem she had memorized on the radio. Miss Angela, a young teacher with a soft heart, pleaded with the principal to give the girl a chance. And so, a journey began, not just education, but of faith. Unbeknownst to Okon, every morning, a shopkeeper named Edom watched from across the road. He noticed a pattern. Okon's limp, the girl's bright eyes, their silent determination. Edom was moved, but never said a word. He simply watched and waited. One day, he took a photo of Okon lifting Imabong onto his back. That image, unnoticed by the man in it, would soon carry a storm. But for now, life was still hard. Okon fixed cars that barely worked, earning just enough for food and Imabong's school fees. At night, he repaired torn shoes for neighbors, whispering to his wife's photo. She's learning. She's happy. The rainy season arrived, and the road to school became a muddy mess. Okon's limp worsened from walking in wet shoes, and Imabong caught a cold. Yet they kept going. One morning, Okon slipped and fell into a pothole, scraping his knee badly. Blood soaked through his trousers, but he lifted his daughter and kept moving. Miss Angela noticed his torn clothes and the girl's wet backpack. She brought them tea, but Okon politely refused any handouts. "I carry my dignity like I carry my child," he said with a proud smile. But inside he was breaking. His tools were rusting, his money was thinning, and his health was failing. Mr. Fanga, the school principal, grew concerned. "We can't keep her here without proper support," he told the teachers. "We are not equipped." But Miss Angela fought for Imabong. "Sir, she's the smartest in class. She reads ahead of the curriculum." Yet policies were policies. Okon was called in. He listened, face calm but eyes stormy. "If I build a ramp with my own hands, will you let her stay?" he asked. The principal scoffed. "That's not how it works." But Okon nodded and left. That night, with worn tools and blistered hands, he began to build, out of scraps, wood, and sheer will. Okon worked through the night under the flickering light of a borrowed torch. With every nail he hammered into the wood, he whispered prayers to his late wife. She'll walk into that school with pride, even if she can't walk at all. By dawn, his fingers were bleeding, but the ramp stood, shaky, uneven, but standing. He wheeled Imabong up the ramp and waited for Mr. Fanga to come out. At first, the principal laughed. This is your solution?" But when Imabong looked him in the eye and said, "Sir, my father built me a way in. Please don't block it," something shifted. The teachers clapped. Miss Angela wept quietly. The ramp stayed. That same day, Edom, the shopkeeper, finally posted the photo he had taken months earlier. The caption read, "This is love. This is what fathers should be." The image spread across WhatsApp groups, Facebook pages, and even Twitter. Within hours, strangers began searching for the identity of the man in the photo. Okon had no idea. He was too busy fixing a motorcycle carburetor under the sun. A woman in an SUV pulled over and asked, "Are you the man carrying the girl in that photo?" Confused, he replied, "I carry my daughter every day. Is that a crime?" The woman smiled. "No, it might just be your blessing." The next morning, a local radio station visited the school. They asked Imabong to speak. Nervous but proud, she said, "My papa carries me because he believes in me. And one day I'll carry him too, not on my back, but with my success." The city fell in love with her instantly. Soon, Okon was invited to a television interview. He wore his only good shirt, one button missing. The interviewer asked, "Why not use a wheelchair or ask for help?" Okon replied, "I was born with legs to stand, arms to carry, and a heart to love. That is enough." Tears rolled down faces across the nation. By evening, a flood of donations began to pour in. Strangers offered wheelchairs, scholarships, housing, even money. But Okon refused most of it. "I didn't do this for help. I did it for my child." He only accepted what Imabong truly needed: books, medicine, and a simple, foldable wheelchair to ease their journey. But all wasn't well. Not everyone was happy. A jealous local politician who had once promised to improve schools but failed saw Okon's popularity as a threat. "Why is everyone praising this mechanic?" he muttered. Plans began to brew in dark corners. Someone wanted to turn Okon's moment into a scandal. A sharp-dressed man arrived at Okon's workshop late one afternoon. He introduced himself as Mr. Benedict from Lagos, talent scout and philanthropist. He offered Okon a full scholarship for Imabong in a private school and relocation to the city. "Your story is inspiring," he said. "Let's make it bigger." Okon hesitated. "And what do you want in return?" The man smiled coldly. "Just exclusivity. Your daughter will be our brand ambassador. We'll tell your story our way." Something in Okon's gut twisted. He didn't like it. He told Mr. Benedict he'd think about it. That night, Imabong looked up and asked, "Papa, what if they take me far from you?" Okon barely slept that night. He thought about the offer, the brand deal, and the relocation to Lagos. He imagined life without his workshop, his neighbors, the quiet streets of Calabar. But most of all, he imagined Imabong waking up without his arms to lift her each morning. That thought broke him. By morning, he gave Mr. Benedict his answer. "Thank you, sir, but my daughter is not a product. She's a person. And this is our home." The man's smile vanished. "You just turned down your future," he hissed before walking away. Okon sighed deeply. For him, dignity was the real gift. But the danger had just begun. A week later, a rumor spread like wildfire through the city. Okon the mechanic is using his daughter to beg for fame. People whispered. The photo was staged. Some even said he injured his leg intentionally for sympathy. News blogs ran headlines like "The Truth Behind the Viral Mechanic." Okon was stunned. "Why would anyone say this?" he asked Miss Angela. She told him not to worry. But people started avoiding his shop. Customers dwindled. Even neighbors turned cold. The hurt wasn't just to his reputation. It was to his soul. Imabong saw him crying one night, silently. She crawled to him and whispered, "Papa, don't break. I still believe." Miss Angela began digging for answers. She traced the blog articles and discovered they were sponsored. At the bottom of the source code, a familiar name appeared, Benedict Global PR. It was Mr. Benedict, the same man who made the offer. Furious, she contacted a journalist friend and handed over the evidence. Within days, a new article appeared. The man who said no to greed, how Okon rejected fame for family. The backlash flipped. People now rallied behind Okon. Anonymous donors paid Imabong school fees for a year. But more than money, Okon felt seen. And Miss Angela? She was now more than a teacher. She was family. It was a sunny morning. Imabong had been secretly practicing balance in her wheelchair, using the school railings when no one watched. That day, Miss Angela saw her try and stand. She gasped, running to her. But the girl shook her head. "I want Papa to see it first." That evening, as Okon knelt to help her off the wheelchair, she whispered, "Papa, let me try." Slowly, trembling, she stood on wobbly legs for the first time. Okon dropped to the ground, hands shaking. "Jesus," he cried. Neighbors ran out. Cheers erupted. It wasn't just a step. It was a miracle born of sacrifice, faith, and love. The news of Imabong's first steps reached the governor of Cross River State. He visited their home unannounced, cameras in tow. "We've heard of fathers carrying nations, but you, sir, carried your future," he said, embracing Okon. The governor offered a full university scholarship and pledged to build a disability-friendly wing at the school in Imabong's name. But after the crowd left, Okon turned to Imabong. "Do you still want to be a lawyer?" She nodded. "Then I will carry you in my prayers until the world sees the queen I've always known." And in that tiny room, father and daughter embrace again, unaware that the next trial was waiting quietly. Just as the media frenzy began to die down, Mr. Benedict returned. This time, he didn't come alone. He brought lawyers. "We have rights to your story," one of them declared, flashing a document. Okon stared at it in disbelief. His thumbprint was at the bottom, a signature from the day he was offered the deal. "I never signed anything," Okon protested, but the paper said otherwise. Mr. Benedict smirked. "You thought you walked away, but I own your name now." The threat was clear: legal battles, media blackmail, or total silence. Okon stood frozen. This was no longer about just him. It was about protecting Imabong's name and future. Word of the threat spread quickly. The same community that once doubted Okon now rose like an army. Women from a market staged a protest in front of Benedict PR's office. Motorcyclists blocked the entrance to the city courthouse. Even students wore T-shirts that read #I stand with Okon. A respected human rights lawyer, Barrister Imabong, offered to represent Okon for free. "This isn't just about contracts," he said. "It's about dignity." The case moved to court, and the city held its breath. Okon didn't care for fame, but he would fight for the truth, for his daughter, for every poor father with a big heart. The courtroom was packed. Journalists swarmed the entrance. Benedict's legal team came prepared with fake witnesses and forged receipts, claiming Okon had received money. Okon sat quietly beside Imabong, holding her hand. His voice trembled when called to testify. "I never asked to be famous. I only asked for a chance to carry my daughter with pride." The judge listened carefully. When Miss Angela took the stand, she presented voice recordings of Benedict's threats, proof he tried to manipulate the story. Gasps echoed through the courtroom. For the first time, Benedict's smile faltered, but the case was not over. A twist was coming, one that no one expected. Just before the final ruling, Barrister Imabong announced they had more evidence. A hidden camera footage from the school's CCTV showing Benedict bribing a janitor to plant false evidence. But when they arrived to collect it, the hard drive was missing. Panic set in. "It's been stolen," the security man confessed. Two men came posing as government workers. With no footage, the case now hinged on witness credibility. The judge delayed the ruling. Okon was devastated. He sat outside the courtroom, shoulders slumped. Imabong wheeled him and said, "Papa, you always carried me. Let me carry your hope today." And in that moment, Okon wiped his tears and stood up taller than ever. Late that evening, an anonymous email arrived at Barrister Imabong's office. Attached was a video, a grainy but clear clip of Benedict's bribery from a backup drive secretly stored by a vigilant teacher. "I knew something shady was going on," the teacher wrote. "This is too important to hide." The next day in court, the footage was played. The entire courtroom fell silent. The judge, visibly furious, declared the contract null and void and ordered Benedict to pay damages. Cheers erupted. Okon lifted Imabong into the air. "We won, my child. Not just the case, we won back our name." But unknown to them, another storm was silently gathering. Just as peace began to return, Okon received a call from a powerful woman in Lagos, Mrs. Justina, the CEO of a multinational foundation that supports children with disabilities. She had seen the trial, read the headlines, and watched the videos of Imabong learning to walk. "We'd like to fly you both to Lagos," she said warmly. "Your story is more than viral. It's a movement." Okon hesitated. "I'm just a mechanic," he said. "I don't belong in glass buildings." But Imabong squeezed his hand. "Papa, you belong wherever I go, and I want to see the world." Okon smiled. He didn't know what lay ahead, but he knew he had to try. For her. Lagos was overwhelming. Cars honked nonstop. Skyscrapers kissed clouds. Okon and Imabong were lodged in a hotel with air conditioning and automatic doors. At night, he paced nervously. "What if they look down on me?" he asked. Imabong replied, "Then we look up at the sky together." At the press conference, Mrs. Justina surprised them with an announcement. Imabong would be the new face of their national campaign for inclusive education. From wheelchair to warrior, the campaign read. Okon blinked back tears. He had once feared the city would swallow them. Instead, it was opening its arms. But not everyone was celebrating their rise. Back in Calabar, someone was bitter about Okon's newfound recognition. Okon's estranged younger brother, Effiong. Years ago, he left the family, stealing their father's tools and inheritance. Now, watching Okon on TV made his blood boil. "He thinks he's better than us?" he hissed to his drinking mates. Fueled by envy, Effiong traveled to Lagos with one goal: to ruin his brother's name. He reached out to tabloids, fabricating tales of child exploitation and abuse. "I lived with them," he claimed falsely. "That man used that girl for sympathy." The blogs began whispering again. A shadow loomed over Okon just when light had finally entered his life. The headlines changed overnight. Is this father a fraud? Daughter used for donations? Cameras returned, this time flashing with suspicion. At the hotel, reporters hounded Okon. Imabong grew frightened. "Papa, are we bad people?" she asked, trembling. Okon's voice broke. "No, my princess. The world just forgets who we really are sometimes." Mrs. Justina called for a private meeting. "I believe in you, Okon," she said. "But the board is shaken. We need to respond fast." They decided to hold a live town hall, allowing Okon to speak directly to the nation. The stakes were high. One wrong word could undo everything they had built. But Okon agreed. "I'm not afraid of truth." On national television, Okon sat beside Imabong in front of a live audience. Cameras zoomed in. Microphones buzzed. Then he began. "I was born poor. I was betrayed by blood. But I swore that this child would never feel abandoned. Not for a second." He paused, choking on his words. "If love is now a crime, then I am guilty." The hall fell silent. Imabong reached for his hand. "I'm not used, I'm loved," she said confidently. Cheers broke out. Hashtags trended. Hashtag Okon is truth and hashtag love never exploits. Backstage, Mrs. Justina wept. "You've done what no press team ever could. You healed hearts." But even as they celebrated, Effiong watched from a corner, his anger burning darker. A few days later, as Okon and Imabong were set to attend a national children's summit, an anonymous video began circulating. In it, a drunken Effiong sat under a bridge confessing, "I lied. Okon is better than me. I was just angry that he made something of himself." The video went viral. Effiong was arrested for defamation, and bloggers who had published his lies were forced to apologize publicly. One of them even met Okon to ask for forgiveness. Okon, with calm dignity, said, "I forgive you, but next time, ask questions before you destroy someone's life." The internet roared with respect. Okon wasn't just a father anymore. He was a symbol of truth. At the National Children's Summit, Imabong rolled onto stage in a bright yellow dress sewn by women from their local market. Okon stood beside her in a clean traditional outfit. When they were called to receive the National Child Hero Award, the entire crowd stood in thunderous applause. Imabong gave a small speech. "They told my papa he was poor, but he gave me more than money. He gave me strength." Tears filled every eye in the auditorium. From senators to school children, everyone was moved. The president himself shook Okon's hand. "You remind us what fatherhood should be." For once, Okon felt like royalty in his own right. Soon after, a philanthropist sponsored Imabong's surgery abroad. Okon hesitated. "I've never been on a plane before." But with Imabong's encouragement, they traveled. The surgery was risky, but successful. For the first time, Imabong stood on her own 2 feet, wobbly but proud. Okon collapsed to his knees in gratitude. Upon returning, Okon was offered a scholarship, not for Imabong, but for himself. An institute wanted to train him in child development advocacy. You may not have gone to school, the dean said, but you're already a teacher to millions. Okon agreed. It was time he learned to help others walk, just like he helped his daughter. With support from Mrs. Justina's foundation, Okon started a grassroots initiative called the Imabong Project, providing wheelchairs, school supplies, and emotional support to disabled children in poor communities. They traveled across Nigeria, visiting markets, villages, and schools. Everywhere they went, children ran to meet Imabong. She's the girl who walks with courage, they said. And Okon, he spoke to fathers who were ashamed, who had given up. Love is louder than shame, he'd tell them. Don't give up on your child. Slowly, broken families began healing. In giving back, Okon found a joy deeper than anything fame or fortune could offer. Years later, Okon stood before a graduating class of special education teachers. Imabong, now taller, stood beside him, walking with confidence. "My papa never promised me riches," she said, addressing the crowd. "He only promised to carry me when the world became too heavy. And that promise carried me to this day." The auditorium echoed with thunderous applause. Okon smiled through tears. From a tiny mechanic shop to global stages, he had kept a simple vow: to love, to protect, to lift. His story was now a folktale told across Africa, not because of tragedy, but because of triumph. And in every retelling, his name lived on: Okon, the father who never let go. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Kindly share, subscribe, and hit the bell button for more stories like this.